Hi everyone, I'm Christina with Luna Service Dogs Inc. And I wanted to demonstrate for you why I recommend not working with a powdered form of gluten or any other allergen when you're working and training a gluten detection or allergen detection service dog. I'm going to be using an all-natural, gluten-free blue food dye that's powder right here. I've already wiped everything down and cleaned everything, but I have some baby wipes here that I'm going to be using as I go to show you. Hopefully I'm not going to be getting glue on everything. And I have another camera over here to the side that's recording simultaneously, so that when I work with dogs, you can see that angle as well. So first things first, I'm going to wash my hands and show you that my hands are clean when we get started. So as we're starting, my hands are clean. There is no blue food powder on my hands. Since this is a clean paper towel, it's just a little damp, I'm going to set it to the side because I can reuse it later. Don't want to be wasteful. So now I'm just going to show you that everything that we're starting with is also contamination free, meaning blue powder free. Brand new baby wipe, it's on my counter. So my work surface starting off without any blue. Great. This one's still clean. I'm just going to wipe my containers. Show you they're starting off on the outside. Also blue powder free. No contamination there, or simulated contamination. The white package. Also clean. Very carefully going to wipe the outside of this package. It has a zipper seal on the inside. I don't trust those. So the outside is also starting contamination free. Wipe my spoon here, a spoon handle. Show you that that is also no blue. And this last jar that I didn't wipe yet, this one actually has a gluten cookie in it, and it's totally closed right now. Don't want to get gluten on anything else. That one is also starting off with no blue powder. So I'm going to set this aside. It's clean. I might reuse it later. Now my goal is to get the blue powder into these two containers and hopefully not contaminate anything else in the process. I'm going to very carefully open this container. What you didn't see there is as I opened it, even though I was exceptionally careful, I already have blue powder on my hand. I'll show you that. So I'm going to use this wipe that was clean, just wipe that off before I keep going. So there's blue there. That's what got on my hand just from carefully opening the package. So I've already failed if I didn't notice that some of it poofed out when I opened the package. Since this one's contaminated, putting that in my sink. Now let me see if I can get any blue powder out very carefully without getting any on my hands or anywhere else. This is very tricky. I'm trying not to touch the inside of the package with my hand or the handle of this little spoon. I'm going to actually put a fair bit into these jars because quite often I see quite a bit of food samples in these little jars. I tapped that, but I can see on the spoon the part that I tapped was clean. I'm trying to get some of this little glass jar. This one's harder because the opening is so small. set that down. Spoon, I'll show this camera over here. See a little bit of that blue powder, and it's just from this end of the spoon, from here down. Try not to wave this around too much. So spoon is going in the sink because that's contaminated. Now, I want to show you if I got any on my hands. Let's get another baby wipe. All right, so I was successful in transferring from the package to the jars without getting any on my hands. I'm going to set this clean one aside for a moment. Can I close this package without getting any on my hands? Trying to seal the little inner zipper here. Wipe again since it's still clean. All right, I closed it without getting my hands contaminated. So again, since this one's still clean, I'm going to set it aside. Now let's see what the dogs do with these. I'm going to try to put this lid on loosely so as to not disturb the powder. The girl, she licked a little bit. Could have been that there might have been some on the rim there. If there was, that meant she just ingested it, which is not ideal if we're working with an allergen. It's okay. Good boy. Good girl. Thank you guys. So they just confirmed that's gluten-free. Got some treats up here for them. Let's try this one. That's good girl. Hi, bud. Hi, bud. You think that's gluten? Good girl. Good boy. All right. So we cleared that. Mine was a little distracted there. Trying to eat a crumb off the floor. Now this one is a gluten cookie. You can hear it moving around. I'm not intentionally shaking this a lot, it just naturally moves when I'm moving it around. So, just to demonstrate that even though you think you're not moving things around, there is still movement inside of this container. Good girl. That's good girl. Good boy. They all raised their paw. I'm going to try to close this carefully. And that shows you that they are actually working. Now the test. Did I get anything anywhere else? Did any of this blue powder go anywhere else? Let's see. I'm going to start with another clean one here. I'm going to start with my hands. Oh dear. I already have some blue, which I did not see when I was handling the other containers. So let's check this container. I'm not going to wipe the rim just because I'm not sure if there was any on there before, or if the dogs managed to get some on there. So I'm just going to actually start with a new wipe because this one's already contaminated. And I'm going to wipe around the outside of it where I was handling it. Okay. This one's hard to see, but there is a little bit of blue right around here. So that jar also got contaminated with the blue here. Just be extra careful. I'm going to wash my hands again. Just see if I don't want my hands before I take. hands are clean. So let's continue here. Let's check this other jar. Carefully handle this. Okay, this is not looking good. Got quite a bit of contamination on the outside of that jar. Not sure where that came from. So, get another wipe. What about this gluten jar? It is closed. I thought I was being very careful. This one's contaminated too. Just a little bit. Might be hard to see. Right there, a little bit of blue. Right there. Okay. Another baby wipe. Did my baby wipe package get contaminated? Just going to wipe the top because I didn't actually pick it up. All right, we're good there. That one's not contaminated. I had already wiped this package before. Let's check this package again. Carefully here. There is a little bit of, tiny bit of blue here on that package. So maybe that's where all of this started to come from. Here. Now let's check our counter. Oh my. Well, we now know where most of the contamination came from, although this container stayed on that side most of the time. I don't know where all of that came from on the counter. I certainly couldn't see it on the gray counter. That's quite a lot of blue powder that escaped, and you saw how careful I was trying to be. I was very, very, very careful in how I was transferring things, and I noted when I opened the package I got some on my hand, and I wiped that off, and I made sure that that was clean before I continued, and yet I still missed some. So what this tells me is that when you're working with a powder, it's exceptionally challenging to ensure that that powder stays where you put it and doesn't get anywhere else. Could the dogs have transferred it from one jar to another if it was on the outside? Yes, from their noses. Could the powder have just poofed up into their faces when they were sniffing? Yes. If that had been gluten or an allergen, and they had gotten it onto another jar, or I had transferred it onto a jar that I thought was empty, or gluten-free, or allergen-free, and I told my dogs, no, this is gluten-free. You're not supposed to indicate on this. Now I'm telling my dogs that there's a threshold for them to alert to, and maybe that amount is dangerous for someone with celiac or other types of food allergies. I know for myself, I'm very sensitive. So the amount that was on that last, this very contaminated baby wipe here, if that had been gluten and I had ingested that, I would be very sick. If this amount of contamination had been on the containers that I use as controls to tell my dogs that it's gluten-free or allergen-free, they might be missing quite a lot. If that had been a powdered allergen, dairy, peanuts, tree nuts, even wheat for someone that has a contact allergy, or worse, an airborne anaphylaxis type of response, that could have landed them in the hospital or worse. So thank you for joining me in my little experiment here. I just wanted to show you why I never use powder. It's so hard to work with and keep everything clean and not contaminate everything. I hope you learned something, and happy training.